Dear friend, let me take you on a little walk this morning. Imagine you step out onto your porch, balcony, or the smallest garden corner. The air is cool and the world is still waking up. Instead of plain walls or bare railings, your eyes fall on a living curtain of green vines and blossoms tumbling gently from pots and stretching upward toward the light. It feels like you've created your own secret garden, a place that doesn't require acres of land or endless resources, just a touch of imagination and a willingness to let nature do her part. So many people think beauty in the garden belongs only to those with wide lawns and endless flower beds. But in truth, climbing plants are the great equalizers. They take the vertical space you already have, an empty railing, a blank wall, a humble trellis, and turn it into a stage where color, fragrance, and life perform daily. I still remember my neighbor, Mrs. Turner, who transformed her narrow apartment balcony into a fragrant jungle with nothing more than a handful of pots and a few determined vines. She used to say, "The higher they climb, the lighter my heart feels." And she was right. That's why today we'll explore 17 of the most rewarding climbing plants you can grow in containers, plus one special bonus that will surprise you. These are not fussy plants. They are forgiving, fast, and generous. Some will dazzle you with blooms, others will perfume your evenings, and a few might even gift you something edible along the way. Together, we'll look at how each one can help you turn even the smallest space into a sanctuary of beauty. And by the end, you'll see that you don't need youth strength or money to create something magical, just patience, creativity, and love. Do you remember the joy of opening the curtains as a child and seeing sunlight pour into the room? Morning glories carry that same spirit, only they unfurl their petals instead of fabric. These vines are well loved for their heart-shaped leaves and trumpet-shaped flowers that open wide to greet the morning sun. They don't ask for much: a pot with well-draining soil, a simple trellis, and a place where they can drink in the daylight. With those small gifts, they will reward you with a cascade of color in as little as a few weeks. One of the reasons older gardeners treasure morning glories is their speed. Unlike many plants that test your patience, these vines seem eager to cover every inch of space they're given. I once visited a friend who had planted morning glories along the railing of her third-floor balcony. In just one season, the bare rail transformed into a curtain of purple and blue blossoms swaying gently in the breeze. She used to sit there with her coffee watching the flowers open as though they were greeting her personally each day. It gave her mornings a rhythm, a reminder that life still opens fresh and new, no matter our age. To grow them well, start with lightweight potting soil and water regularly, but don't drown the roots. Place the container in full sun and provide support early, whether it's a trellis netting or simply the balcony railing. Once the tendrils find their grip, the vines will climb eagerly. Colors range from deep indigo to soft pinks and whites, so you can choose hues that match your mood or blend into your garden's palette. Morning glories teach us something subtle: beauty doesn't always last forever, but it returns faithfully. Their blooms open in the morning and close by afternoon, only to reappear the next day. For many, it's a gentle lesson about embracing the moment, about taking joy in today without worrying about how long it will last. A single morning with blossoms greeting you is a gift in itself. And when repeated daily, it becomes a blessing woven into your routine. If morning glories are like the fleeting joy of sunrise, then English ivy is the steady, dependable companion that stays with you through every season. This classic climber has dressed old stone walls, brick homes, and garden gates for centuries. In a container, ivy offers the same sense of timelessness: thick, glossy leaves spilling down the sides like an elegant green curtain, or climbing gracefully upward to soften a harsh wall. Even when other plants wither back in winter, ivy holds its color, reminding us that beauty can endure. I remember walking past an older gentleman's townhouse each December. While most balconies stood bare, his had a simple wooden trellis with ivy weaving its way across. Against the gray sky, that patch of green looked like a promise life continues. Even in the cold, he once told me the ivy was his companion plant, something alive to look at every morning when he opened the blinds. That steady presence gave him comfort through many lonely seasons. Caring for ivy in a pot is refreshingly simple. It thrives in partial to full shade, making it an excellent choice if your balcony doesn't catch much sun. Place it in a large container, water regularly but lightly, and prune when it starts to wander too far. Ivy loves to spread, so trimming it back not only keeps the plant tidy, but also encourages fuller, denser growth. If you enjoy variety, look for cultivars with cream or yellow variegation. They brighten up shaded spaces with soft patterns of color. There is something deeply symbolic about ivy's way of growing. It doesn't bloom with showy flowers or burst into fragrance. Instead, it clings, climbs, and endures. For those of us in our golden years, ivy can feel like a reflection of resilience, the ability to adapt to root in unlikely places, and to keep growing quietly, even when the spotlight has shifted elsewhere. When you see its evergreen leaves cascading down, you're reminded that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's simply the steady green presence that never leaves your side. There are plants that please the eye, and then there are those that stir the soul. Star jasmine belongs to the latter. Imagine stepping out onto your porch at dusk and breathing in air laced with the soft, sweet perfume of star-shaped white flowers. This vine doesn't just decorate, it transforms your outdoor space into a sanctuary where every evening feels like a gift. The glossy green leaves stay handsome year-round, but when the blossoms appear, the whole plant seems to glow. I think often of my Aunt Clara, who lived alone after her children moved away. She grew star jasmine in a pot by her patio chair. Every summer evening, she'd sit quietly with her knitting while the scent of the flowers filled the air. Neighbors sometimes stopped by just to breathe in that fragrance and chat a while. Clara said the jasmine gave her company a living reminder that even the simplest corner can bloom with warmth. Growing star jasmine in containers isn't difficult. Choose a rich, well-draining soil. Keep the pot moist but not soggy, and give it a trellis or railing to twine around. It thrives in full sun but will also do well in partial shade. The more light it receives, the more abundant the flowers. And if you place it where evening breezes drift toward your favorite sitting spot, you'll enjoy the fragrance just as my aunt did. What sets star jasmine apart is its ability to turn ordinary spaces into something memorable. It teaches us that joy can be quiet and steady, arriving not with bright bursts, but with a lingering sweetness that stays with us long after the moment has passed. For anyone who has known the comfort of a familiar scent, be it fresh bread, a grandchild's lotion, or the lilacs from childhood star jasmine, is a way to bring that tenderness into your daily life. A vine like this doesn't just grow, it creates atmosphere, one that feels like home. Some plants whisper softly with delicate blooms while others burst into song. Bougainvillea is one of the bold singers of the garden, dazzling with brilliant magenta, orange, or red bracts that can turn even the plainest patio into a festival of color. Place it in a container with strong sunlight, and suddenly your balcony feels like a corner of Greece or southern Italy, washed in brightness and warmth. It's a plant that makes no apologies. It celebrates life with intensity. I recall visiting a friend in Florida who had only a small concrete balcony overlooking a busy street. She was tired of staring at gray pavement and honking cars. One spring, she placed a bougainvillea in a large clay pot with a simple wooden trellis. By midsummer, the plant had climbed tall and was bursting with fuchsia bracts. That little balcony became her sanctuary. Neighbors often paused to admire it, and she'd smile, knowing her small space now gave joy, not just to herself, but to everyone passing by. Caring for bougainvillea is straightforward. If you remember one key rule, it loves the sun. The more light it gets, the richer its color. Use a large, sturdy pot, because once it settles in, it grows quickly and vigorously. It doesn't require heavy watering once established. It's surprisingly drought tolerant. Just ensure the soil drains well and don't fuss too much over it. Bougainvillea thrives on a little neglect, rewarding you with long-lasting color displays. This vibrant climber reminds us that sometimes the best beauty comes from letting go. Bougainvillea doesn't ask us to nurture it constantly. Instead, it thrives when given freedom and space. As we get older, that lesson resonates. There's value in stepping back, allowing life to unfold naturally, and finding joy in the wild, colorful bursts that appear when we least expect them. With bougainvillea climbing upward in a blaze of color, your small container garden becomes not just lively, but unforgettable. If bougainvillea is bold like a trumpet, clematis is the violin, elegant, graceful, and endlessly varied in tone. Gardeners have long called clematis the queen of climbers, and for good reason. Its flowers arrive in shapes as delicate as stars or as full as velvet saucers in colors that span from soft whites and pinks to deep royal purples and blues. When grown in a container, clematis can transform a simple trellis arch or railing into a living tapestry that feels almost too magical to be real. I'll never forget a visit to a neighbor's backyard tea party one June afternoon. She had 3 clematis vines growing in large pots, trained up tall obelisks. The effect was breathtaking pillars of violet and magenta blooms rising like floral sculptures. Guests didn't gather near the food table. They gravitated toward those flowering towers, marveling at the sheer abundance of petals. That display became the centerpiece of her little garden, proof that even a modest space could feel grand when you let a climber do its work. Clematis thrives when its roots are kept cool while its foliage basks in sunlight. In a container, this means mulching the soil surface or planting low-growing companions around its base. Provide a rich, well-draining mixed water regularly, and offer a strong support for the vine to cling to. With these simple steps, clematis will reward you with months of blooms, often from late spring into summer. Different varieties flower at different times, so with a bit of planning, you could enjoy clematis nearly all season long. What makes clematis so special is its reminder that balance matters in gardening and in life. Just as it needs shade at the roots and light at the top, we too flourish when our foundations are protected and our spirits are free to reach upward. Its blooms, delicate yet persistent, encourage us to honor both rest and growth. In return, clematis gives us the joy of beauty that feels refined, dignified, and enduring. Some vines bring quiet charm, but trumpet vine arrives with a fanfare. Its clusters of fiery orange and deep red blossoms look like trumpets raised to the sky, and they play a silent song that calls every hummingbird in the neighborhood. Few sights are as delightful as sitting on a porch, tea in hand, watching these tiny birds hover and dart from flower to flower, their wings humming like nature's applause. Trumpet vine doesn't just decorate a space, it fills it with life and movement. I remember a friend of mine, recently retired, who wanted more color and joy in her mornings. She planted trumpet vine in a large pot with a sturdy wooden arbor beside her patio chair. By midsummer, the vine had scrambled up and over the arch, and soon the blossoms arrived in blazing orange. Hummingbirds came daily, and so did neighbors eager for a glimpse of the spectacle. That archway became her morning ritual, coffee notebook, and the steady company of wings and blossoms. To grow trumpet vine in a container, think big and strong. It's vigorous, almost too vigorous if not given boundaries. Choose a large pot with well-draining soil, place it in full sun, and provide a solid support such as a trellis or arbor. Once established, trumpet vine tolerates heat and even light drought. But don't forget to prune. Left alone, it will wander farther than you might want, so trimming keeps it balanced and beautiful. There's a lesson tucked into trumpet vine's boldness. Sometimes growth comes faster and stronger than we expect, and it needs gentle guidance. In our own lives, energy without direction can become overwhelming. But with a steady hand and a bit of shaping, that same energy turns into a display that's vibrant, controlled, and life-giving. With trumpet vine glowing in your garden, you're not just adding color, you're inviting in the joyful company of hummingbirds and the reminder that nature always has a little music to share. Music. If trumpet vine bursts with fiery energy, wisteria offers romance in slow motion. Its blooms don't shout, they cascade, draping down in clusters of lavender blue or snowy white like nature's chandeliers. Few sights feel more enchanting than stepping outside in late spring to see long garlands swaying in the breeze, each flower releasing a soft fragrance that carries you somewhere dreamy. Wisteria, even in a container, brings a fairy tale quality that makes any patio or balcony feel touched by magic. I once visited a couple who celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary beneath an arbor covered in wisteria. They had planted it in large pots decades earlier and trained the vines carefully over time. The husband joked that the plant had grown alongside their marriage, slow at first, then stronger with each passing year, until finally it draped them in beauty they could have never imagined when they began. Their guests sat beneath the blossoms, sipping lemonade while stories of love and resilience mingled with the fragrance in the air. Wisteria needs patience. In a pot, it asks for rich, well-draining soil, regular watering, and strong support, something sturdy enough to hold its weight as it matures. Place it in full sun, prune it consistently, and understand that it may take a couple of seasons before the first flowers appear, but when those blooms finally arrive, the wait feels worthwhile. Each cluster is a reward proof that some of the best things in life ask us to linger a while before they reveal their splendor. Wisteria teaches us to honor timing. Not everything worth having comes quickly, yet when it does, it's unforgettable. Its blossoms remind us that patience is not wasted. It's an investment that matures into beauty richer than anything rushed. To sit beneath wisteria's cascading flowers is to be reminded that life still holds moments of wonder, especially for those who wait with hope. In your container garden, wisteria won't just grow, it will weave a little storybook scene right outside your door. There are flowers that please the eye, and then there are those that stop you in your tracks. Passion flower belongs in the second group. Its blooms are like works of art, intricate layers of purple, white, and blue that look almost otherworldly, as if painted by a careful hand. In a container, passion flower doesn't just climb, it performs. Each flower feels like a surprise, and the vine grows quickly enough that your balcony or patio can be transformed in just a season. I'll never forget visiting a small community garden where one retired teacher had planted passion flower against a chain-link fence. At first, the fence was plain and ordinary, but by midsummer, it was draped in vines and sprinkled with blooms so strange and beautiful that children pressed their faces against the blossoms in awe. The teacher laughed and said, "It's the best science lesson I've ever given, no textbook required." Butterflies hovered close, bees buzzed happily, and even passers-by paused to marvel. That plain fence had become a living painting. Passion flower thrives in full sun to partial shade with rich, well-draining soil and steady moisture, give it a sturdy trellis or railing to climb, and it will reward you with growth that seems almost unstoppable. Some varieties even produce edible passion fruits, which bring both beauty and bounty to your garden. The vine does well in containers because it loves boundaries, enough space to spread, but not so much that it becomes unmanageable. What passion flower whispers to us is that life still has marvels waiting to be discovered. Just when we think we've seen every flower shape along, comes this creation that looks like it belongs in a dream. For older gardeners, tending to passion flower can feel like rediscovering a sense of wonder, the way a child sees the world. In its intricate blooms, we are reminded that beauty doesn't have to be simple to be meaningful. Sometimes complexity itself is a gift, layered, surprising, and endlessly fascinating. If passion flower is mysterious and exotic, the black-eyed Susan vine is cheerful and playful, like a burst of laughter on a summer morning. Its bright yellow or orange petals circle a dark center, giving each bloom the look of a friendly little face peeking out at you. In a container, this vine grows with astonishing speed, scrambling up trellises, spilling over railings, or trailing from hanging baskets. Wherever you place it, it brings instant sunshine and a sense of joy. I once visited a widow named Margaret, who had recently moved into a smaller apartment with a tiny balcony. She missed her garden dearly, but she planted a black-eyed Susan vine in a large hanging basket by her door. Within weeks, the vine trailed down like a golden waterfall, greeting her every time she stepped outside. Neighbors noticed too. Children especially loved pointing out the little flower eyes. Margaret told me the plant gave her something to smile at each day. And soon she felt her balcony had become her garden in miniature. To grow this vine successfully, choose a sunny spot. The more sunlight it gets, the more flowers it will produce. Keep the soil moist, but not soggy, and provide a trellis or strings early so the plant has something to cling to. If you pinch back the tips when it's young, the vine will grow bushier and bloom even more. It's a forgiving plant, perfect for those who want quick results without constant fuss. Black-eyed Susan vines carry a gentle reminder that joy can be simple. Not every flower has to be rare or dramatic to make an impact. Sometimes it's the cheerful, steady presence of bright color that lifts our spirits the most. For anyone with a small balcony or limited energy, this vine is a wonderful choice, easy to grow, generous with blooms, and always ready to brighten even the cloudiest day. It teaches us that happiness doesn't always come in grand gestures. Often it's found in small blossoms, smiling back at us. There's a sweetness to summer nights that words can hardly capture, and honeysuckle seems to bottle that feeling into a flower. Its tubular blooms, soft shades of cream yellow and pink, release a fragrance that drifts easily through the air, especially in the evening. In a container, honeysuckle climbs eagerly up trellises and balcony rails, turning plain structures into fragrant walls. More than just pretty, it also attracts hummingbirds and butterflies, so your space hums with life as much as it glows with beauty. I remember a summer evening at my cousin's home. She had a honeysuckle vine in a large pot by her porch swing. As the sun slipped down, the scent wrapped around us like a soft shawl. Fireflies flickered in the yard, while hummingbirds still darted among the blossoms. She told me the vine reminded her of her grandmother, who used to pluck the flowers and let the children taste the drop of nectar hidden inside. That night, it wasn't just the fragrance that lingered, it was memory layered sweetly into the air. To grow honeysuckle in a pot, choose a rich, well-draining mix and give it consistent moisture during hot spells. Full sun is best for abundant blooms, though it will tolerate some shade. Provide a trellis arch or even simple wires for it to climb, and it will reward you with cascades of flowers through late spring and summer. Once established, honeysuckle asks just a bit of pruning to guide its shape. What honeysuckle teaches is that beauty can be more than what we see. It can live in what we breathe and feel. For older gardeners, it's a reminder that fragrance carries memory of places, of people, of moments when life felt tender and whole. With honeysuckle, your balcony or patio becomes not just a garden, but a place where scent, sound, and sight weave together into something unforgettable. It is less a plant and more an invitation to linger, to sit quietly, and to savor the sweetness of evening. While some vines dazzle with blooms, the climbing hydrangea impresses with quiet strength and dependable grace. Its large, heart-shaped leaves create a thick green backdrop that stays beautiful even when flowers are absent. In summer, clusters of lace-like white blossoms appear delicate yet striking against the dense foliage. In a container, this climber may start slowly, but once established, it becomes a steady companion, reliable, lasting, and lovely year after year. I once met a retired librarian who kept a climbing hydrangea on her shaded balcony. She told me it mirrored her own life, slow to begin, but stronger and richer with time. She didn't mind that it took a full season to settle in. She loved watching its steady progress, leaf by leaf. By the third summer, her small patio wall was draped in green, and when the white blooms arrived, she said it felt like the plant was wearing pearls to celebrate. Her hydrangea became a reminder that patience has its rewards. Growing this vine in pots requires moist, well-draining soil and a spot with partial shade. It clings naturally with aerial roots, so provide a trellis wall or strong support to guide it. Regular watering helps it along, and while it may seem slow in its first year, don't be discouraged. That's just its way of establishing strength for the years ahead. Once it finds its footing, it will climb confidently, giving back far more than you expect. The lesson of the climbing hydrangea is that steady progress matters more than quick bursts. In a world that often praises speed, this plant teaches us to value the kind of growth that endures. For those of us entering our later seasons of life, it's a gentle reminder there's dignity in taking our time, in growing strong roots, and in blooming at our own pace. With climbing hydrangea in your container garden, you don't just gain greenery, you gain a living reflection of resilience and grace. Some flowers win hearts, not by their size, but by their sweetness. Sweet peas are delicate climbers, beloved for their pastel shades of pink, purple, red, and white, and for the fragrance that drifts like perfume on a breeze. In a container, they climb eagerly on trellises, netting, or even simple string filling small spaces with charm and scent. They may not last all season in hot weather, but while they bloom, they create a little world of gentleness and beauty. I remember visiting an elderly neighbor one spring. She had lined her small balcony with pots of sweet peas, their vines twining up handmade bamboo sticks. She loved to cut the blooms and place them in jars around her home. "The more I pick, the more they give," she said with a smile, holding a handful of fresh blossoms. Her apartment always smelled like springtime, and she delighted in sharing bouquets with friends and even strangers. The flowers, she explained, were her way of keeping generosity alive. To grow sweet peas in containers, start them early in the season when the weather is still cool. They thrive in full sun with rich, well-draining soil and respond well to a balanced fertilizer. Keep the soil moist and don't hesitate to cut flowers often. It encourages the plant to produce even more. With regular picking, sweet peas can offer weeks of continuous blooms. Sweet peas carry a lesson in giving. They remind us that when we share what we have, whether it's flowers, stories, or kindness, Life tends to return that gift in abundance. Their fragrance lingers as a memory, and their blossoms remind us that joy multiplies when we let it go freely. For older gardeners, sweet peas are a tender companion, easy to grow and rich in meaning. In a simple pot, they bring not just flowers, but also the gentle wisdom that generosity makes life bloom brighter. Where some vines bring subtle charm, Mandevilla arrives with bold drama. Its large, trumpet-shaped flowers, in shades of deep pink, vivid red, or pure white, look as though they've been borrowed from a luxury resort garden. Set one in a container on your patio, and suddenly the space feels transformed, bright, tropical, and festive, even if you're miles away from the ocean. The glossy green leaves add richness, making Mandevilla as lush as it is colorful. I once knew a couple who had canceled their travel plans due to health concerns. Instead, they decided to bring the vacation home. They planted Mandevilla in big ceramic pots around their back porch, and within weeks, the blooms exploded in brilliant color. They added a small fountain nearby, and each evening they would sit with iced tea, watching the flowers glow in the fading light. "It feels like we're at a resort," they said, laughing. That vine gave them joy without the need to travel. Mandevilla thrives in warm weather and full sun, but it adapts well to partial shade too. Use rich, well-draining soil and provide a sturdy trellis or support since the vine climbs quickly. Water regularly in the heat, but be sure the pot drains well as Mandevilla dislikes soggy roots. A light feeding every couple of weeks will keep the flowers blooming nonstop through summer and into fall. With proper care, it can become the centerpiece of any container garden. This vine carries a message many of us need. Beauty doesn't always require distance or expense. Sometimes it's waiting for us in the spaces we already have. By planting Mandevilla, you're not just adding flowers, you're creating an atmosphere, a daily reminder that joy can be cultivated right at home. Its tropical blooms whisper that even ordinary days can feel like a holiday if we allow them to. Few plants stir the heart quite like roses. Their fragrance, their soft petals, their timeless association with love. Roses have long been symbols of beauty and devotion. And while many picture them sprawling across grand gardens, climbing roses can thrive beautifully in containers too. With a strong trellis, arch, or obelisk for support, they rise upward gracefully, transforming even a small patio into something that feels like a classic cottage garden. I once visited an older couple who had downsized to a townhouse after decades in a larger home. They missed their rose beds dearly, but on their new balcony, they chose compact climbing roses in large pots. By midsummer, arches of soft blush and crimson blooms framed their sitting area, filling the air with fragrance. The husband said, tending to those roses reminded him of the ones he gave his wife when they were young. She smiled, adding that each blossom felt like a love letter written in petals. Their story showed me how plants can carry memory and romance across time. To grow climbing roses in pots, select varieties bred for container use as they stay more manageable while still producing abundant blooms. Place them in full sun, provide rich, well-draining soil, and feed them regularly through the growing season. Pruning is essential not only to keep the plant healthy, but to encourage fresh blooms throughout the summer. With care, climbing roses will reward you with blossoms that feel luxurious and deeply personal. Climbing roses remind us that love, like gardening, requires tending. Their beauty is not instant. It's nurtured with care, patience, and attention. Yet the reward is incomparable lush flowers, lingering fragrance, and the quiet romance of watching something grow and bloom before your eyes. For anyone looking to bring timeless elegance and sentiment into their container garden, climbing roses offer not just flowers, but also a daily reminder that some forms of beauty never fade. Not every climber is just for show. Some give back in more than one way. Scarlet runner beans are a perfect example, offering vivid red blossoms that attract hummingbirds and pollinators while also producing edible beans. In a container, they grow quickly and vigorously, covering trellises, poles, or balcony railings with lush greenery and bursts of crimson. They're the kind of plant that makes your garden both beautiful to look at and practical to enjoy. I once met a retired teacher who loved hosting her grandchildren on weekends. She planted scarlet runner beans in a large pot beside her porch swing. By midsummer, the children marveled at the scarlet flowers, and later in the season, they picked handfuls of beans together. She cooked the tender pods into simple meals, saying, "This plant feeds us twice, first with beauty, then with food." Her garden became more than decoration. It became a place of learning and nourishment for the next generation. To grow scarlet runner beans in a pot, use a tall support like bamboo poles or a sturdy trellis. They thrive in full sun with well-draining soil and regular watering, especially during hot spells. Harvest the beans while they're young and tender, as this not only gives you the best flavor, but also encourages the vine to keep producing more. With consistent picking, the harvest can last all season long. Scarlet runner beans carry a meaningful lesson. Beauty and usefulness can live side by side. We don't always have to choose between what pleases the eye and what sustains the body. For older gardeners, this vine may feel symbolic, a reminder that our lives too can continue to give in multiple ways, offering joy, wisdom, and nourishment to those around us. Growing scarlet runner beans isn't just gardening. It's an act of generosity, yielding blossoms for the soul and food for the table. Some vines climb with elegance, others with energy, but nasturtiums climb with joy. Their round, lily pad-like leaves create a playful backdrop, while their funnel-shaped flowers, shades of orange, yellow, and red, burst like confetti against the green. In a container, nasturtiums spill trail and climb in whatever way suits them, filling a space with color that feels lighthearted and free. And the best part, both the leaves and flowers are edible, adding a peppery zest to summer salads. I remember visiting a neighbor who planted nasturtiums in mismatched pots along her balcony railing. By midsummer, the vines cascaded over the edges, blossoms glowing like little lanterns. She would pluck a few petals and scatter them over cucumber salad before we shared lunch together. Food should make you smile before you even taste it. She laughed, handing me a plate, bright with color. Her nasturtiums gave her not only a harvest, but also a reason to share meals with friends more often. Growing nasturtiums in pots is delightfully easy. They prefer poor to average soil, too much fertilizer, and you'll get more leaves than flowers. Place them in full sun water lightly and let them ramble. They climb trellises readily, but are just as happy tumbling from baskets or trailing along balcony rails. With very little care, they'll reward you with continuous blooms all summer long. Nasturtiums remind us that life doesn't need to be complicated to be beautiful. They thrive on less, proving that sometimes simplicity is the key to abundance. For older gardeners, they're a wonderful choice, easy to grow, cheerful to see, and useful in the kitchen. A pot of nasturtiums offers not just beauty for the eyes, but nourishment for the body and laughter for the spirit. They're a gentle reminder that joy multiplies when we let it overflow, just as their vines spill over the edge of their pots without hesitation. If nasturtiums bring playful cheer, Alamanda delivers drama and brilliance. Its large, trumpet-shaped flowers glow in shades of golden yellow, bright as sunlight itself. Against glossy green leaves, the blooms look almost painted, bold strokes of color that demand attention. In a container, Alamanda grows, quickly climbing up trellises or spilling gracefully over railings, creating a vertical display that turns any patio into a tropical escape. I once met a widower who planted alamanda by his porch after a long, difficult season. He told me he wanted a reason to look up again. Within weeks, the vine had covered his trellis, and when the first golden blossoms opened, he said it felt like the sun had moved closer to his home. Neighbors began stopping to admire the bright flowers, and he found himself smiling more often. That plant became his reminder that even after shadowed days, light still returns with surprising beauty. To grow alamanda in pots, choose a large container with rich, well-draining soil. Place it in full sun and water regularly during hot weather, but avoid soggy roots. A strong trellis will guide its growth upward, while occasional pruning will keep its shape neat and vigorous. Once established, alamanda blooms generously throughout the warm months, filling your outdoor space with a continuous golden display. Alamanda offers us a simple but powerful lesson: brightness is contagious. Just as its flowers seem to radiate sunshine, so too can our actions and spirit bring light to those around us. For older gardeners, this vine is not just decoration, it's encouragement. Each golden bloom is like a small sunrise, reminding us that even in late chapters of life, joy can shine brightly and spread warmth to everyone nearby. With alamanda, your garden becomes more than a corner of greenery. It becomes a place where hope and brightness live year-round. Just when you think you've seen the best, sweet autumn clematis arrives like a grand finale. By late summer, this vigorous vine covers trellises, fences, and arches with a blanket of delicate white star-shaped flowers. In containers, it doesn't hold back. It climbs quickly, filling spaces with a cloud of blossoms so abundant they almost glow. And as the evenings cool, the fragrance drifts through the air, sweet and soothing, a signal that autumn has arrived with grace. I once visited a community garden where an elderly couple had planted sweet autumn clematis along the entry arch. By September, the vines had transformed it into a living tunnel of white flowers. Children ran through it laughing, and visitors stopped to breathe in the gentle perfume. The couple smiled as they told me they planted it for everyone, not just themselves. It's our way of giving back, they said. That arch became the heart of the garden, a gift of beauty that touched every passerby. To grow sweet autumn clematis in containers, provide a rich, well-draining soil and steady watering. It thrives in full sun to partial shade and needs a sturdy trellis or arbor for support. Because it grows so fast, pruning is essential. Cut it back hard in winter or early spring, and it will return even stronger the following year. With just a little care, this climber rewards you with breathtaking late-season displays when many other plants are beginning to fade. The lesson of sweet autumn clematis is generosity. It reminds us that beauty, when shared, multiplies. For older gardeners, it's an especially moving companion, quick to grow fragrant and filled with light, as if to say that even as one season ends, another gift is beginning. Its flowers show us that life, too, can be full of surprises in its later chapters. With this vine, your garden becomes not just a place of growth, but a celebration of abundance given freely. Dear friend, as we look back at these 17 climbers and that one unforgettable bonus, you can see how each one carries not only beauty, but also wisdom. Morning glories remind us to embrace each new day. Ivy shows us the quiet strength of endurance. Star jasmine teaches the joy of fragrance that lingers, while bougainvillea celebrates boldness and fire. Each vine, in its own way, whispers something about life, about patience, generosity, resilience, and joy. I think of the many gardeners I've met, each with their own small patch of green. One had only a window box, yet filled it with sweet peas that perfumed the whole street. Another kept wisteria in pots, waiting years for it to bloom, then cried when it finally draped her balcony in lavender clusters. These aren't just plants, they're companions that walk with us through our seasons, reminding us that beauty and growth are still possible no matter our age or circumstances. Perhaps that's the greatest gift of container climbers. They prove that you don't need a wide yard or boundless energy to create something breathtaking. A balcony, railing, a few pots, and a little care are enough. In return, you gain not only a greener space, but also a softer heart, a place where memory, fragrance, and color weave into your daily life. So, which of these vines speaks to you? Maybe you long for the bold joy of black-eyed Susans, or perhaps the romance of roses, or the practical beauty of runner beans. Whatever you choose, know that your hands still create your heart, still responds, and your garden, no matter how small, is worthy of wonder. Thank you for sharing this time with me today. If this visit brought you ideas or comfort, I invite you to subscribe for more gentle inspiration and garden wisdom. And I would truly love to hear from you. Which climber do you dream of planting first? Your stories are what keep this community blooming. Until we meet again, happy gardening, dear friend. May your days be filled with growth, fragrance, and the quiet joy of vines reaching ever upward.